This is the Roller Coaster Podcast, and I'm your host, Lucy Q. Life is a wild ride. It has twists and turns. It's scary, exciting, and downright fun. So throw your head back, arms in the air, and come along with me for the ride.
Life is like a roller coaster, baby, baby. I wanna ride.
Okay, before we get started, check out nectargrowth.com. nectargrowth.com. It's free to join, but not for long. Nectar is an extension of the roller coaster. It's where you can start your own journey of self-exploration and growth. In Nectar, you'll find different topics of interest, daily blogs, affirmations, journal prompts, and you can connect with some of the fantastic coaches that have been on the roller coaster. Soon, we'll be adding videos, meditations, live discussions, and events. Our signature course is a journey of self-improvement, and it's valued at $397. But once you join, it's available to you at no cost. So if you're feeling stuck, if you feel like you need to change and not sure where to start with Nectar Growth Network. Come join us. You know you're worth it. Now, let's get on with today's show. Have you ever wondered if we come into this life with a plan and a purpose, or is it all random? It's a question, or forms of it, that I've seen pop up a lot lately. But for me, I believe that we're all connected, that we all come here with a purpose, things that we're meant to discover, explore, and experience. But then I have to ask, where do these plans come to be? Joining me today is Michelle Kennedy, a Reiki healer and reader of the Akashic Records, to bring clarity to our soul's purpose, the Akashic Records, and Reiki. Hi, Michelle.
Hi, Lucy. How are you?
I'm great. How are you?
I'm terrific.
So I'm really excited. As I said before we got rolling here, or recording, I learned about the Akashic Records many years ago through Sylvia Brown. And I'm very interested in it. I don't know what to call it, a concept or a theory, because it's something that just is, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. It is something that just is. In fact, it's interesting that you said Sylvie Brown, because she was probably my first introduction to anything psychic and beyond
Me too.
the physical world. And back when I read her was in college, probably. And at the time, I had things around me like Reiki and yoga, and I was like, "Oh no, not that. That's just weird." And I didn't learn about the phrase Akashic Records until about, I don't know, 6 to 8 years ago. And I didn't know that everybody who did Reiki wasn't connecting to the Akashic Records. So the Akashic Records, just to explain, are it's believed that we each and every one of us have a book of life, and it includes all of our past lifetimes, all of our karmic contracts, all of our potential futures, as well as, when I say karmic contracts, that's all the things about your journey, who you're supposed to meet, steps along the way, and potentially what you're supposed to do in each life.
So does that involve who we choose to have in our life, in the sense of who our parents are, who our spouse is, who our children are?
Absolutely, absolutely. And I think that we tend to pick similar soulmates or kindred souls to come back with us because we know how we work together. That we say, you helped me with this last time, I will help you with this time. Or, hey, we totally messed up last time. Let's try it again and see if we could do better. But then there's also slightly different with people who resonate as star seeds, because star seeds, I believe, sometimes are just, we volunteered to come here during this time to help bring light to the world and help heal others. And we didn't always get to pick the exact people we were born with, but we find our family and our soulmates along the way.
So how do things, like those trauma and the tragedies that we encounter in our life, how does that come into play? Like, why would anybody choose to go through some of the crap that we go through in our life?
It's a great question, and I'm still working on answering it. But what I believe through my experience, because in Reiki, I work with a lot of people that have trauma, childhood trauma, sometimes past life trauma that they're carrying. And it's not karmic. Occasionally it is, but generally it's not, because we all come to this world our truest self, our purest self. And like I said, we come with certain um, things we're supposed to accomplish, contracts we've made before we came of things we're supposed to do. We have a habit, just like in life, when we keep attracting the same people or getting involved in the same situations, we do that lifetime to lifetime because there's something about our nature once we get here of like, oh, I remember this and this makes me angry and I don't know how to deal with anger, so I'll take it out on somebody else. Um, so it's not always a choice to be traumatized or abused. It's because that other person has not overcome their karma, whether it's a past life or this life, and they're taking it out on you because we all have free will. Once we get here, we all have free will.
Yeah, and it's something that we talk about a lot on these episodes is we all have the power to choose. We have the power to choose how we think, how we act, how we react, how we govern our lives. But then we have these decisions that we made before we came here. So, and I'm pausing because those decisions are made on, I mean, for me, I think back to Sylvia Brand and what she would say, she would refer to it as the other side. So, how does that come to be? Like when we're on the other side, how does it come to be that, you know, because when you think about all of the people that we encounter in our lives, all of the interactions, all of the things that we fulfill and we do, is every minutia planned on the other side? Or is it sort of more 30,000 foot plan and then other stuff happens along the way?
I definitely think it's more of a big picture that we plan on the other side. I don't think we plan every single thing. However, there are definitely people we are supposed to encounter along the way. And that can change because of free will, that can change. So our higher self or our guides can guide people in if we're getting too far off track. And I always like to say everything in the universe moves in spirals and circles. So if we didn't hit the thing we were supposed to hit, let's say at 25 years old, it may come back around again at 27 or 30 or something, and we'll be older, wiser, and be like, oh, yeah, I remember that. Like the seed was planted back when we couldn't handle it yet. But when we get older, wiser, and have more life experience, we may be ready to receive it. Um, but yeah, I don't think every single moment is planned because of free will. And I think we do have free will so that we do explore the physical world and the emotions and the physical joys of the world here.
And is that why? I mean, I've certainly had certain people come into my life that you just have, whether they're a friendship that is lasts a certain period of time or they're a lifelong friend. But people come into your life that you feel for no explanation deeply connected to.
Yes, absolutely. Though that's what I meant by when we are sometimes born into a family that wasn't exactly our first choice, that we find our chosen family along the way because those are the people that we said, please come in, whether it's help me get out of the situation that I am being born into, and let's elevate each other together. Because that's what I think when we find our chosen family, these are the people that help us grow, that can shine a mirror on us or a light on us and say, you're great, and just let me help you move past this. And we keep inspiring each other to rise up.
And when you're referring to family, are you referring to birth family or the people that we choose to have in our life?
So I think sometimes birth family is, as Sylvie Brown said, it's chosen, but I think there are sometimes compromises that we make even on the other side of, okay, I don't really want to come back to earth again, so I will come, but I'm not going to accumulate any new karma, but I'll help you get there. I'll help you do this, and then I'm out. So it could be that we had um, maybe a parent who died when we were younger because they said, I'll bring you in, I'll get you set up, but then I'm going. Um, and yes, of course, there's trauma involved in that grieving process, but they also continue to stay connected to us on the other side. But I think chosen family is what I was referring to as those people we find that really help us in our adult life to rediscover who we truly are. Because we kind of start out, for lack of a better word, perfect. And then life kind of beats us down. And then in
Yeah.
our
And
adulthood,
then
we're like,
shit happens. I
and then
mean,
we spend our
let's be
adulthood
honest.
trying to get it back. Yeah.
Yeah, because I mean, we are, you know, from what I understand, we're born into this life with those past memories from the other side. And that's why you very often see children that can see things that we don't. They remember. But then, as you say, life kind of beats it out of us. And then we end up with all of these bruises and scars that we then have to figure out how to heal in the next part of our life.
Yeah, exactly. And I know a lot of people are, it's very current topic of trying not to say, well, that happened so that you got stronger. And I don't believe that because that would be, not everyone had a karmic event that was traumatic. You know, sometimes it is someone acting out against you, not because you were supposed to have that happen. Um, but yeah, I do believe that, and we may have family members that we made a compromise with. I know someone who they feel like there are certain family members they chose to come in with, but the family itself worked out. We're like, why are you in my life?
Well, and I laugh because for me, I was number two of four kids. And I have, ever since an early age, I've always felt so disconnected from my family environment. And really, up until almost 5 years ago, I just did not feel connected to, I don't even know what. I was lost. Sure, I had a great life. I had a great husband. I had two great kids. Um, but it's that thing deep down inside I couldn't find. I just, I suffered from all of those things that, you know, just about everybody does. Imposter syndrome, I'm not enough, self-defeat, self-hatred, all of those things. And for me, I joke, I was talking to my son today. I'm like, I'm a slow learner. Don't do what I do. Like, learn from my mistakes. It'll be a lot easier. I said, but you still have your journey to go on. It wasn't until recent years that I've really been able to connect to that authentic Lucy, that I feel that I'm on a path where I know, like, this is what I'm supposed to be doing. I know what I'm doing, and I know it. And this is Lisa Nichols that says, I know it like I know it. I can't now tell you why. And I get that in life. Some things I just know, and I cannot explain why.
Yeah, that's clear cognizance that you just know. Can't answer why, but I just know.
Yeah,
And that, yeah, it's a gift.
it's a gift, but you know what? And again, this goes back to the Akashic records, because people like yourself can tap in and tune into them and understand somebody's story. And for me, when I just know things, I'm confident when I know something for myself. I can be somewhat confident with other people, but I always question, do you actually know this, or is this just shit you're making up in your head. Sorry, I'm a doubter. I can't help but be like self-doubting, and that's a downfall of mine. I should probably trust it more. But I honestly, like, even when I get certain thoughts and things, I can't help but sit there and go, okay, is that a message from somewhere, or are you just making it up?
That's a really good point. I mean, the struggle is real, and for years I would question. Actually, it comes and goes because I remember one of my first experiences with Reiki and the other side, and it was kind of interdimensional and very creepy and weird. Um, but I realized at that moment that if I don't trust this, because Reiki is all about what is within the channel of Reiki is pure and of the highest light and highest good. So if I am safe in this space, then I have to trust that this is relevant. And then eventually saying relevant became, and this is real. Even if I don't, human brain, understand it, right? My conscious brain may not comprehend, but my subconscious is like questioning. I would say, is this of the highest good? Only the highest good is welcome here. And I would kind of send anything that wasn't. And if it stayed, I was like, okay, it's of the highest good. And then I would, ask my guides, is this something I'm projecting? Is this real or is it not? And if I got no answer, then okay. They were like, really, Michelle?
But it's like, but it's even like, I asked my guides, I asked my angels, I asked the people surrounding and supporting me, but then I question, I question if their response is real. It's like, I know and I believe, but I can't help but doubt it for me. Like, if you were to tell me anything, 100% bang on, yep, I'm in tune. But when it comes in my own head, that's when I get that skepticism.
And we're all guilty of that because when I can read other people, it's like concrete fact. But when it comes through for me, I'm like, did I get that right? Am I getting the message? Is this correct? And it's harder for me to see my own details. And I think that's for everyone that is, identifies as a light worker or has, or I like to say light workers and seekers, that when we get things for ourselves, it's always hard to comprehend because we have our conscious mind fighting our subconscious mind all the time. But when we see it for other people, it's just so concrete and you get that clear cognizance like, yep, this is right. But when we have it for ourselves, it's like, is this clear cognizance or am I just am I just doubting?
Yeah, no kidding. Now, you touched on Reiki. Can you maybe explain a little bit more what Reiki is and how you combine that with exploring the Akashic records and how that all kind of blends together?
Yeah. So I was attuned as in Reiki, and there's three steps to it. It is an ancient healing process from Japan. It is believed that it is older than that, but it was rediscovered in Japan by this man named Master Usui, we refer to him as. I'm going to give you the short version. So basically, it is energy healing that comes through the hands. It used to be called hands on energy healing, but it does not really need hands to be on. It can be sent from a distance. And we connect with, I like to say, divine energy or universal energy. So within the universe, there is energy that we don't see. There is energy within us that is part of the universe. So if you think of stardust, we are all made of the same particles and energy. And we each have this energy in us. But when a Reiki practitioner or master channels it, we bring the purest energy through us and back into you to replenish anywhere that you have diminished that energy or where you may have blocks from allowing it to flow. So honestly, that doubt is part of where you may have imbalance, that you're not trusting in your purest soul. And so there may be blocks of letting that energy flow that you trust, or It can be stuck because of trauma that we have, that we're not grounding enough or we're not loving ourselves enough. And so it flows through and it amplifies the energy, it clears out chakras. And then for me, it's always been that when I was within the channel, being a channel of Reiki, I would connect to a person's akashic records and I would get things for them and from them. And it could be past lives, it could be a lifetime trauma or issue, or it could be potential futures. And I say potential because the future is never solidly written. It's more like penciled and the record keeper's erased. But they also can have
We can
like
change
separate
our answers if
pages.
we want.
Exactly, because of free will. So they can have, when I do a session and I get potential futures, I'll get two or three potentials of like, well, if she chooses that, it'll be that. If she chooses that, it'll be that. And if she chooses that, then she'll go that way. Um, so I could see potential futures as well, but it's usually within the confines of the Reiki channel or orb of light, so to speak, that I have most access to, although I do occasionally get little flashes. And I actually have had a couple of flashes of you while we were
Ooh,
talking, Lucy.
do share.
Um, yeah,
And
so
full disclosure, I have no idea what you're going to say, but I've given you permission to say whatever you want to say and share it, and this is going to be super cool.
cool, cool. So it feels like I'm not good with timelines because, like most people in America, we don't know our history. So I don't have the timelines. Like I'm looking at clothing, so it could be um it could be anywhere from like medieval times back into Druid times, but I don't think it's that far back because I'm seeing this like marketplace and I don't really know if you consider yourself a healer, but it feels like you have this kind of like merchant stand where you have like all these leaves and flowers, kind of herbs, and then you have these kind of tinctures and stuff. So definitely glass was made into bottles by the time you were doing this. Um, and you have this kind of stand that you're selling this stuff, but I think it goes beyond that. Like you may have been kind of a village healer and you had your central place where you sold your wares, but also may have gone home to home of that time. You look very similar to the way you look now, and I think that's a common thread. Um, your hair was more like in this kind of, oh, my hair just like fell right into the way, like a little pulled
But
back
it's funny,
kind
yeah,
of.
because I used to wear my hair, well, more back in the 80s or on a hot day. It's like, yeah, you go
Right.
back. Yeah.
Yeah. So it's kind of like that, and you have kind of like a beige ruffle, so probably like a tea stained dress. Um, Your aura is very much like it is now. A lot of like pink and peach in your aura. And I don't really read auras, but I'm seeing that in that life. Um, and just you're very loved, and you were also very generous with your love and care of people, which it seems like you are now too.
Yeah, and that's really interesting. Um, because, as I've shared on other podcast episodes, I basically hit, whether you call it a crisis point, a dark night of the soul, whatever it is, I hit rock bottom. And it was then that I met my real self. I literally I hit rock bottom. I was at complete desperation and I called out to the universe and I said, just give me one thing to do so that I can move forward and come out of this tailspin. And it answered and I listened and it just started me. It was like a fork in the road. There was the Lucy that I was before, and then the Lucy that I am now, the one I'm supposed to be. And this is what led me on the path, to the, personal growth, personal development, journaling, meditation. It then sort of led into starting the podcast, and then it led into me launching an online business called Your Growth Network. So that healer, like whether it's, physical healing or the emotional healing, helping people through their journey, it's definitely rooted in who I am now. Probably not who I was before, in sort of the first part of my life. I mean, in sense, I was a mother and a wife, so you're always have that healer caretaker side of you. Um, but definitely something very, very different than, what I was before.
Yeah. Yeah, that's it sounds like, and this is part of free will, that we have to ask our guides for help. They just can't intervene. Um, it sounds like you got off your path and they helped when you prayed or meditated on it, they helped guide you back to where you were supposed to be. And I think that happens to a lot of us when we hit rock bottom because I've had a couple of rock bottoms where it's like,
See,
oh,
it's
but I
it's everybody goes through it. Like even the healers and the light seekers and everyone, we all go through it.
never think we're done growing. I think that we're always on a journey. And part of the purpose is the journey. You know, it's not about the end game. The end game is when we're like, you pass, you graduate, go back home, go back to the other side. But I think the journey is, it's all about discovery. Like, how much can you remember how to love yourself and remember how beautiful you are and that you're part of something bigger and connected to all these people? And then share your love, share your gifts with great generosity so other people have permission and learn to love themselves and share their gifts. Um, which is what you're doing too. So you are a healer. There's so many different facets of helping others and healing, and it's all part of it.
Yeah, it's really interesting because, when I think back to when I first was introduced to the Akashic Records and Sylvia Brown and her teachings, um, again, the person that I was then is, I could never have imagined who I am today. Not even close. Not even close. And it is, we were talking about family earlier, and it is so polar opposite to my family. I was raised in a very, we're British, very sort of typical British upbringing. There's a right way and a wrong way to do things, and this is it. This is how you live your life, and this is the way things go. And then along came Lucy, this little black sheep outlier, whatever you want to call me, who was always like looking at, pushing the limits and seeing where else I can be and questioning the rules. Always
Yeah.
looking for, well, just because you're telling me that this is the way it is, I need to know for myself.
Yeah, I agree with you, and that's so it's so clearly um, what I think a lot of us go through, and whether light work or starseed, that kind of energy, that when we were born into a challenging or dysfunctional family, it's part of the process, part of the journey is breaking free of those limitations, those, light and dark, positive, negative, black and white, um, kind of a box that we're living in. And we have to break out of the box and just spin.
Well, that's it, is that you ultimately have to make the choice for yourself.
Yeah.
And we've talked about this a lot, is going through, people hit that point of rock bottom, they hit their midlife crisis, whatever you want to call it, and they realize that they've been living this checklist, doing all of these things, yet they're not happy. And I think that's because in a lot of ways we've conformed to what society expects us to do, and we forgot our reason for being here. And I think that's where the unhappiness is coming from, is we're so far away from who we're supposed to be. Those decisions we made on the other side, we're just not close to them.
Yeah, I agree. And this may not be a popular statement, but many other uh, Reiki masters, light workers, star seeds are saying this, that the the pandemic was a an opportunity for all of us globally to take a step back and look at our lives and see, am I really happy with the way things were? And I know many of my clients have come to me and like, pandemic and I'm getting divorced, or pandemic and I'm quitting my job and I don't know what I'm going to do, or I'm going to become a nomad and I just bought a van and going cross country and figure it out. Because there, we all have a limited time here and nobody is promised tomorrow or promised old age. So why live a miserable existence here when there's so much that we can celebrate and share and love?
But my fear is that many people, when the pandemic started and throughout it, I mean, it's obviously run its course much longer here in Canada. I mean, we're still under some forms of lockdown here, uh, lockdowns, rules, whatever you want to call them. Um, I saw a lot of people. I think beforehand there was a certain level of numbing that people were doing to themselves. I think that reached a new height in the past year and a half, and I'm almost wondering if it's kind of reaching that breaking point where we're either going to just implode or, start to reach for that higher consciousness that, you know, we're here to attain.
Yeah, I think it's a little of both. Um, I'm not an astrologer, but there's a lot of astrological events that are happening in 2021 that basically say big change is coming. And we all have free will and we can kick and scream and fight it. Or we can really open up our hearts and accept the truth of who we are and start shifting into a higher vibration of compassion and love and doing for others. Um, there's a great Buddhist practice of metta meditation, and it's all like, may all beings everywhere be happy. May all beings everywhere be peaceful. May all beings everywhere, uh, be love and beautiful. And it's all about, we all deserve that. We all have a right to that. Um, but we also have to help others in that compassionate way, or else we can't have it. Um, Without getting into like the freedom kind of aspect of it, there really is no freedom if we don't care for each other. And that goes no matter what country you
It
live in.
is. And for me, maybe it's just from where I'm sitting, but I see that caring for one another, I see us being divided more and more. Whether we're looking, you know, for me, the more times you rely on a label, the more times you create division and you remove the opportunity to be caring and compassionate, because it doesn't make a difference your race, your gender, sexual orientation, where you live in the world. We all face trauma. We've all faced challenging situations. And whether you clump them together as under a label and you're fighting for care and compassion as that label, or you're choosing to see that, no, we all have hurt, we all have pain, but how do we come together? For me, I think the coming together piece is that gap. We got to figure out how to cross it.
Yeah. It's it's unconditional love. It's that, what we said earlier about that we're all one, we're all connected. When we start to recognize that, before the recording started, I said we look like we could have been sisters in some other lifetime, and maybe we were.
Yeah.
And that connection is what we have to see in everybody, and having compassion for people, even people we don't like or who have wronged us or traumatized us. Having compassion for others is really the key. You can have compassion from a distance, but it's not always mutual. But the more you send love out into the world, the more it spreads, the more it comes back to you, and the more we find and bridge that gap.
And is disengaging from emotions like hatred.
Yes. Because
because,
hatred is just a dark color of love, really.
well, anything like hatred or not being able to forgive people, the only person that affects is you, really.
Yes.
I mean, if you're going to be outwardly abusive or violent to somebody, okay, that's a different story. But that energy of hatred and unforgiveness, that's what weighs your heart down. And I think that's the message that people really need to wrap their heads around, is going back to that love and that compassion, and that we're all connected. That's
Yeah.
that's where I think we begin to heal. Whether or not we're gonna get there or not, I'm not sure. Now,
Yeah.
you've written a book, haven't you?
It's so funny you brought it up just now because what you just said is something that is addressed in the book. Um, just a little backstory. I have been told by my guides to write for years, and I used to write when I was a little kid and in college, and I've come and go at it. Um, but 2020, it was like, it's time, Michelle. And it was pushing and pushing, and I was like, okay, okay. Um, so the book is called Hold Space, and that title was given by one of my guides while I was sleeping and woke me up to write it down because they said you'll forget. But there's a section in it about forgiveness because that's the greatest gift. When we are harmed by somebody, hurt by someone, or traumatized by somebody, or we hate somebody, we are carrying all that baggage. I like to say you're carrying a bag of shit.
Yeah.
And who wants to carry a stinky bag of shit with you? The person who gave it to you, they don't care. They got rid of their shit and they forgot about you. Most of the time, they forgot about you or what they did to you. So we have to let it go. And we have to let it go because we love ourselves too much to carry this thing around with us anymore. Um, and there's a lot of other things that are touched on. I mean, I didn't even realize so much of it was felt channeled, that it was um, affirmations that I had channeled over the years to clients that ended up in the book, and then I wrote little sections introducing the affirmation or why it was a good idea to do it. So there's trauma is addressed, forgiveness. There's even some section that people with addiction who have said hit them so hard in a good way. Um, so it was time, and it launched June 22nd, which was kind of right around the time where the US was like, okay, we're going to lift sanctions and restrictions and stuff, and things are starting to open up and come back. And it felt like I didn't even realize it was going to be the right time at that time um, that it came out. But yeah, I agree. Love is the answer. When the movies like Princess Bride, that true love, right? There's no greater power. Yes, there's no greater energy than true love. And it doesn't have to be romantic, it's just the purest form of selfless love.
And the work that you do, because beyond your book, you are a Reiki healer and you do help people with the Akashic records, and you don't have to be in the same room for that. It's something you can do over a distance, right?
Yes, yes. I have clients all over the world. Over the past year and a half, I have had people in Germany, England, and everywhere in the United States, Puerto Rico, so many different places, because it can be done from a distance. And we stay on the phone, or sometimes we do a video for those who need a visual. I use a picture, usually a photograph, to help me stay focused on you and your energy. And it's just a beautiful thing. And that has expanded over the past year and a half. The amount of energy I'm channeling, the way I'm channeling it. I started recently channeling light language, which was a kind of wild experience for me, but it's super powerful. It is highly charged, positive love light energy. Um, so yeah, I stay on the phone the whole time. I do a little sound healing, and then at the end, I tell each client everything that came through of their past lives, where they may have had some energy stuck. Sometimes I write an affirmation and say, continue on with your healing by using this affirmation. which is basically how the book came about, because these affirmations, some of them were very universal, and I would share them on social media and get replies like, "You just shifted my day." Um, so that felt like the most universal start, and it was affirmed by my guides. Yes, that one, that book.
So where can people connect with you and get a copy of your book?
So they can find me at myreikihealer.com or michellerosekennedy.com. That's my author site. I am on Instagram and Facebook at My Reiki Healer. And I'm also on TikTok, but not as much. I do Clubhouse talks occasionally, but hopefully more frequently. So that is also at My Reiki Healer. Um, and my book can be bought and on Amazon. It's available by Kindle. It is available by paperback. You can even request it at your bookstores. I made sure that it's available to bookstores and libraries all over the world. So that is how you find me. And I would, I hope that you enjoy the book, and I hope that you enjoyed this chat. And I have definitely enjoyed speaking with you, Lucy. Like I said, I don't know if you identify as a healer or a light worker, but I can clearly tell you are.
I was going to say, I do, but then the itty bitty shitty committee starts in my head telling me, who do you think you are?
Oh,
But
God, that's what my inner critic says too, but they add the F in there.
well, yeah. Who do you think you are? And why are you what makes you think you can do this? Yeah. We all go through that. If you're looking at connecting with Michelle, though, make sure you check out the show notes. I will have all of her links in there. And Michelle, thank you so much for joining me today.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. Thank you so much. And thank you for all you do. By doing this, you are just helping so many people. I really resonated with the episodes that I was able to listen to. I mean, you have a lot, so I didn't get to listen to all,
Well,
but I've been catching up.
it's my goal to be the number one daily mindset and living your best life podcast. So
It's
I'm on a mission.
beautiful. I confirm you are a light worker. Come on, that's clear to me.
Okay, if Michelle says so, then I believe it.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thanks for listening to this episode of the Roller Coaster Podcast. Want to chat or share your ideas about today's show? Pop me an email at hello@therollercoasterpodcast.com. Don't forget to connect with me on Facebook and Instagram at The Roller Coaster Podcast. Our theme song, Roller Coaster, was performed by The Lucky Setback. Audio editing by the one and only Jeff Quigley of Quigley Creator.